Well, welcome to Unity Center of Davis on this beautiful day. I hope you're keeping your cool, so to speak. Yeah, of course you are. We're going to begin a song. We're going to begin a song. We're going to begin the service with a song that describes the ultimate reality that sometimes we forget. The song is "There Is Only Love." I do too. Welcome, Cecile.
In another life, I sing like Cecile.
Yeah?
But not this
You have other gifts.
There you go.
That's right.
And my first gift is, please make sure that you turn off anything electronic
That's a good idea.
that could disturb you.
Yes. Or others.
Or others, right? And do we say hello now?
Yes, that's a good thing.
We don't sing now. Okay.
No, we're going to say hello.
Stand up and you may say hello to your friends.
I saw it when I came in. Maybe she was on 8 o'clock now.
There's nobody in here that's exceptional, I want you to know. It's in every one of us, it is. It's in every one of us. Words are coming up on the screen, and this is a familiar song. Let's stand and sing this song. Free that. Our children have already been
Yes,
off
I
to their
don't see
places.
any. Unless some of you would like to go join them.
We won't name names.
Okay.
I'm going to bring this up. Is that okay?
Yes.
Volunteer.
You want to go? It's,
Feel free.
it's fun back there, it actually is.
Feel free to fan yourself if need be.
Yes.
Larry's going to take off his coat.
I'm going to take off my coat.
Because
Say,
it's
wow.
hot.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, our first announcement, the Be Peace Practice Group
Yes.
meets next Wednesday, August 15th from 1 to 3. And if you go, this is a new communication practice that will help you create more connection with yourself and others and enrich relationships.
That's right.
The lights are still.
What's
The
that?
last time the lights were on.
Oh, that's right when we said that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we finally have, you know,
We got the message.
the resistance is gone.
Yes, there we go.
So also let you know that last week we had a challenge with our CD recording, and some of you wanted to get the recording from the service. We did have a video recording, however, so we were able to pull the audio off of that and make it remaster that for last week's message and meditation. So if you'd like to pick up that today, so you can have this whole series if you want that, they're available for sale in the store near you. Next door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terminated.
Yeah, and let me do this one too. So Conscious Connection Circles, we've been talking about, it's actually kicking off this week, and it's an opportunity for you to meet in homes with other people and discuss the latest message that we have here on Sunday. And we have already kind of established, I think, 3 hosts that are going to be hosting these connections throughout the week. And it's not too late, those sign-up sheets are still in the fellowship hall today. So if you'd like to be part of one of those groups. And I heard today from Corrine that she's going to do one on Sunday, perhaps. So like Sunday, like around 12:30, maybe 2, and you just go over to the office, the conference room. So if you have an interest, and it's not a Thursday, because all of them are turning out to be on Thursday nights, and you can't make it Thursday night, would you be interested in another time? Put your name on the other list, sort of the generic list, and you'll be contacted about other possibilities, okay? So do that today. The groups will start meeting this week. And yes,
Okay.
yes.
We have a Unity class coming up, Discover the Power Within, and it's going to begin on Wednesday, September 5th, and this is an evening class,
Yes.
7 to 9 for 5 weeks. So if you want to learn and deepen your Unity's, the Unity's transformative spiritual tenets, you can come there. It'll meet the requirements for voting membership, so if
Yes.
you haven't participated in that, sign up today.
Yes,
Store.
sign up sheet.
Books for sale.
Books are for sale as well.
There you
Yes.
go.
Also, to let you know, to save the date for Karen Drucker, she's coming here on November 2nd. We've been talking about that. I just want to make sure you hold on to that. And we are going to have a planning meeting next Sunday for that particular evening. We want to wrap some other things around it. Maybe it's either a dinner or a reception or something else. Make it a complete evening for you. So if you have ideas around that or would like to volunteer or help in any way, shape, or form, please join us next Sunday after the service. So what did we say? Did it say 12:30 at the conference room? Yes.
Great.
Oh yeah, also, we've been talking about A Course in Miracles, and today is our second in that series. I wanted to remind you that we have a Course in Miracles group that meets in Davis here. It's been going on for many years. Alexander Smith hosts that. There's actually 2 of them, one 3 to 5 on Wednesday afternoon, and one from 7 to 9 on Wednesday evening. And so if you're interested in having a deeper discussion around A Course in Miracles, then you can join that group, and it's open, and anytime you can come into it. And there are sign-up sheets in the fellowship hall, and you'll be contacted around the details and how to find your home and all that. So, yes,
So that's it, gosh.
that's
Prayer
it.
chaplains today are here to help you after service for any personal prayer or spiritual support.
Yes.
And they will meet over here, so thank you.
So, good. Well, good. Let's all take a collective deep breath as we release the announcement energy here and come into that space, that open space of possibility. This beautiful song to take us there.
Let you take a deep breath. Take the words in your heart as you sing. I rest in God. God rests in me. I rest in peace. I rest in God. God rests in me. I rest
I rest in God. Just invite you to take in that spirit breath, breathing deeply into that place of surrender, that spirit place, that familiar place. I am spirit. Taking in another deep breath. Oh, sinking into that familiar place, knowing that I am this perfect child of God, completely loved. I am willing to shift my perception back into the truth of who I am. As you feel that shift, breath by breath, the breath of spirit, that you are spirit, pure love, place, that anchoring, knowing, place of goodness, of gratitude, of joy, no matter what is going on. I have a choice with each breath, Spirit, to be basked in that light and love and that safety of knowing that all is well. As I separate myself from the circumstances, situations, stories, or the need to be right, that I claim that essence of spirit that I am that can never be taken away. Breath by breath, I sink into that place of love, of knowing that my strength is so deeply connected to who I am, one with you, Spirit, right now, always. And as I breathe in that breath of Spirit, I become this miracle worker. A miracle worker that is expecting the goodness in every situation. And so I invite us to rest in God and Spirit in the silence. Thank you, Spirit, for giving me the ease to be willing to surrender into the truth. Underneath everything, I have that foundation of knowing that I am the Spirit being. Everything that I need, all the strength, all the love, is always present for me. I am always connected. As with each breath, I breathe in that knowingness that makes it easier and easier to fall into my spirit essence that removes pain and suffering of being right, and connecting back into that radiating light of who I am that is absolutely pure love. I claim that to be my truth with every person, wherever I go. That I'm only here to be that miracle worker, to create that love and that light. As I easily breathe in, I feel the life of Spirit connecting to every cell of my body. I am safe. I am at peace. And I am filled with gratitude. This is the truth for me, and I claim resting in God. And so it is. Thank you, Spirit. Amen.
This inner space has the power to set me free. It's the cavern of creation and the truth of you and me. This inner space, an eternity of time. It's the moment of the holy now and the allness that is mine. This inner space contains all that I need. From deep within the invisible flows the living air I breathe. This inner space is flowing in my bones. It stirs my heart, it stirs my mind, and every prayer I've ever known. And I say, breathe, just breathe. Now breathe. This peace, this inner space is the ocean of your soul. And when you feel most broken, the truth is you are whole. This inner space connects us one to all. And though it would never push you, it will break down every wall. And I say, breathe, just breathe. Now breathe. This this inner space invites us to renew. In all my endless choosing, I become the chosen to this inner space. It never knows the past. In a quiet place, you can hear it, and it might just make you laugh. And I say, breathe, just breathe. Now breathe. This peace of this inner
Inner space. Well, that was quite extraordinarily wonderful. And pretty much the message of the day, too, so thank you. I think I'll sit down, put my coat off already. You want to say that again? We'll just listen.
They have to say the meditation.
Yeah, I know. That was wonderful too. Thank you, David, too, for all that. Well, we are on the second week of a series here, a beginning series about this subject, and it's A Course in Miracles. Looks like this. It's not a quick read. Even if you're a speed reader. And so what is it? As many of you know, but for those of you who don't know, that's a good question. Well, obviously, it's a volume. It's a volume of about 1,200 pages, and it's made up of 3 separate volumes, which is the text, which sort of explains the theoretical framework of course, of the philosophy, and then 365 workbook lessons, so that you can literally do this every day of the year, or spend more time on a lesson. And at the last section is called the Teacher's Manual, which is somewhat of a misleading, because it's really not a manual for teachers of A Course in Miracles in terms of someone who had reached a certain level of understanding of the Course. The way the Course believes that we are all teachers, in the sense that every time you share a truth, you are teaching. And then in order for us to really learn something, we have to share. And it's in the sharing that we learn. And it's in the understanding of something through the sharing that we become teachers. And of course, we're all teachers for each other. So that's how it's made up, sort of structurally. Some say it's a religion, or it's their religion, but it's not really a religion in that sense, because it doesn't have the traditional kind of structure and dogma and doctrine that you would have in a typical religion. Some have called it a psycho-spiritual mind treatment. Psycho-spiritual mind treatment, which is a mouthful in itself. And I would say that actually probably comes pretty close to how I would describe it, because I like a lot of words. Some say it's Christian, but it does have Christian terminology in it and some Christian themes, but in many ways it departs from the traditional understanding of Christianity, particularly around salvation doctrine of Jesus, so forth. Some say it's Eastern, and yeah, there's truth in that. And some say it's mystical. And clearly, if you're practicing A Course in Miracles, it's really designed for you to have the mystical experience. It's not a head trip, not something you just read and study. It's like in my first church. By the way, friends here, Roddy and Kate Jackson from Modesto are here today, so we welcome them. Roddy and Kate do music at our Modesto church, and very talented people. And that first church experience, I remember someone, after I had talked about A Course in Miracles, came up, about a month later and said, "Okay, I read the whole book, what do you got next?" What's that? And isn't that how we are sometimes? It's like, I thought I would take 3 golf lessons and be able to play golf. And what we learned very quickly is that change happens slowly. It's like moving what's the expression? Moving a big ship. I can't think of the name of it.
Tanker.
A tanker, thank you. Hopefully it's not going to be one of those mornings, but if I had John, would you be here to fire those out? Thank you.
Sometimes every one of us.
Often, yeah, except for one apparently. But I get some help here, and I appreciate that. Let's keep those ideas coming. So it's because, and this is really where the Course works over time, it's because we are so ingrained in another way of seeing life and thinking that it takes a lot of retraining. It's like, you get that, you bring that puppy home and you just, you have to tell it over and over and over again. But ultimately, there is hope for all of us that we can begin to see life differently. And that's really what the Course is designed to do. It is a course that deals with our mind, and to be able to change our mind about life is to change our experience about our life, yes? And we all know that. If we can change our perception, then we change our experience. However, most of us get it backwards. We think we need to work at changing the external in our life. But what we forget, or what we don't want to know, or don't want to remember, is this, is that the external is just a projection of the perceptions that we have in our mind. That's the experience that we have out here in the world is a projection of what we hold to be true inside of us. And so it's like if you're watching a movie and you are trying to change the picture on the screen without changing the film. I mean, that's so ridiculous to talk about it in that way, but it really reminds us of where the work is when we're talking about spiritual growth. If we really want to shift our life, if I really want my life to take on a whole new color and light and life, then I know that the work is within me. And of Course in Miracles does have an expression that says this very well. It says, seek not to change the world, but seek to change your mind about the world, and the world will change automatically. See? So this, of course, is very consistent and parallels unity teachings. That's why you hear A Course in Miracles from me often. It does not contradict, A Course in Miracles does not contradict unity teachings. It's very similar to what we teach, with particularly around the notion of the Spirit indwelling us. That the divine, we believe, what we call in unity the Christ, which is the Spirit of God individualized in man. That is the Christ notion. And the Christ is, of course, not Jesus' last name, as well, let's stop for a while. But the Christ is the idea of the awakened one. It is the image and likeness of God individualized in you and in me. And that can either be a sleeping Christ, it's there in potentiality, but it's not there in realization, or it's in full bloom. Now, Jesus was in full bloom. Jesus was the fully realized Son of God. We are all children of God, sons and daughters of God. That's what the Course teaches as well. It says that God extended itself, God being the creator, was able to create and extended itself out and created you and I, not in this physical form, but in our spiritual essence. We are the individualized expressions of God, and we have fallen asleep to that ultimate notion of who we are, and we have come to believe that we are these separate physical beings and bodies, which makes us very vulnerable to the vagaries of life, the vicissitudes of the ups and downs, and the winds of fortune and ill fortune that blow in and through the human experience, and causes us to suffer, causes us to be afraid, causes us to act out of fear instead of love. But the Course's primary principle is that only love is real. Only love is real. And anything unlike love, anything unlike that is not real. So we make a distinction. As we're learning these teachings, we're constantly making a distinction of the real from the perceived. Because perception creates our reality. As I just said a moment ago, perception creates what we see on the screen of our life, how we see life. So we know that if we're trying to bring more truth to our life, in other words, more love, more wholeness, more peace, more joy, more abundance, then we need to allow that reality to inform our perceptions. We need to let that reality be the root from which we take our understanding of life. And then as we express that in life, the more of who we truly are gets expressed in life, the more our life becomes a reflection of those teachings, of those truths. Everyone confused yet? I always say to myself, every year I decide to do this series, I think, this is awfully ambitious to go through this very somewhat intimidating looking volume. But I'm trying, and help me with this. This is where you need to help me. This is the effort going. There it is. Simplify, 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 simplify. It is very simple. We make it complicated. And because I love concepts, I can make it complicated too. And I could very well understand that person who came to me and said, all right, I read it. You got anything else for me to read? No? So, last week, we talked about the work for us was to go within. And the title was Journey Without Distance. That's the most important realization we can have, and it's not something I just want to leave behind because we talked about it last week. So as you carry that notion into today's lesson, as you go forward, it's this constant reminder that what you're looking for in life, whatever your deepest desire is for life, the equivalent of that in spiritual terms is already resident within you. So that which you are seeking, you already are. Doesn't that confound the surface mind, yes? No, I'll tell you what I want to be having and experiencing and feeling, and none of those things are true about me, right? That's what the ego mind. The ego, by the way, is just a name that the Course in Miracles has taken to describe you and I, who were created in this image and likeness of God, in this wholeness, pure love, that had a notion that we could create on our own. That we sort of fell asleep or went unconscious to this oneness out of a desire to create a world apart from God. Now, that's impossible to do. You can't create a world apart from God because the way we understand spirit, it's where? It's everywhere. Wherever you go, something puppy, you know. It's always there. It's always there. Except it's a puppy that doesn't take on your shoes, or, you know, it's the loving puppy that's always unconditionally loving. So to qualify that, because I was like, God's like a little puppy. And just remember those incidents when I had a puppy. Anyway, I digress, but more importantly, it's the notion that it's always with you. Yes? Always with you. You can't, there's no spot where God is not, which is what the kids say in YLU and stuff. There's no spot where God is not. So this idea that we created this idea of separate identity apart from God and then created a world to match separation, which is the world of bodies and forms and space and time, all of that got created out of this, what the Course calls a tiny, mad idea. Tiny because, you know, I mean, you can't think much smaller than that, and mad because it's insane that you can ever be separate from God. So, but that doesn't discount how powerful that idea is. It's incredibly powerful, in fact. And that's why we have a world of fear. We have a world where we feel like we have to survive, and we battle for survival because we don't understand this essential oneness. We've lost sight of who we are. We've lost sight of the love and the connection to life and love and wholeness and peace. And so we're constantly trying to recreate that experience by manipulating the circumstances of our life in such a way that we then think that would equate to that inner experience. And all the while, we're at home in God, believing we were exiled, that we were banished in the garden, that we were thrown out because of something Eve did with the apple, and she blamed it on the serpent, whatever. But we were never banished. We walked. Think about that. And as we walked, this is how I had this image. Of course, it's all metaphorical. We didn't go anywhere, but the image I get is, and this came from a friend of mine, it was actually Lenny. You remember Lenny? He said he had this dream one time. He saw us walking out of the Garden of Eden, that moment, whatever that was, and that the God was in the garden just blessing the children as they walked out. Just blessing them. See? That's this whole notion that there's nothing that you could ever do that would bring upon you the wrath of the Infinite One, of this, because this love is unconditional. And so we walk around with guilt, we walk around with fear, because we feel we've done something wrong. But in essence and truth, there's nothing that we could ever do that could disturb the reality in which we are inseparable from. And it's, the Course uses many beautiful metaphors, and one of them is this: we feel like we are sunbeams that are apart from the sun. A tiny little sunbeam thinking it's apart from the sun. Or a wave that is somehow separate from the ocean. Absolute impossibility. But out of that perception, we have these experiences in life that feel quite isolated. We feel alone, we feel separate. Every one of us in this room probably has many moments throughout the week in which you feel like you're in your own personal little hell, or heaven, depending on how kind of a week you're having. But the idea being it feels very separate, and we have created that notion. So the work for us is to just get back to the truth. This is simple, folks. It's the problem here. Just get back to that truth. And I want to hit on a couple of lessons from the workbook here, maybe one anyway. First one is lesson 70. Oh, that's not what I'm going to do. Yeah, let me do 79. 79 first, let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. This is very good logic, yes? You may not like it, wait. It says the problem cannot be solved if you do not know what it is. Even if it is really solved already, you will still have the problem because you will not recognize that it has been solved. This is the situation of the world. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem, hold that one, has already been solved. There's only one problem that is the root of all problems, and it's already been solved. That was worth the price of admission, wasn't it? Yet the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. We think it's something else. We have our list. Everyone in this world seems to have his own special problems. Just as I just said. Yet they are all the same and must be recognized as one if the one solution that solves them all is to be accepted. The more we feel that we are in our own personal isolated situation, the less we are likely to recognize the universal solution. Now, it's not going to come easy, but this is the lesson plan for this week. This is what you want to take with you today. Who can see that a problem has been solved if he thinks the problem is something else? Right? It's like if you were sick and I gave you $100.
Yeah.
You'd say, that's not the solution. Until you found out later that I had taken your wallet. Probably won't use that the second service today. You shouldn't amuse yourself, it's embarrassing. Who can see that a problem is solved, if we better back up here, remember where we are, if he thinks the problem is something else. Even if he is given the answer, he cannot see its relevance, okay? That's the position in which you find yourself now. You have the answer, but you are still uncertain about what the problem is. A long series of different problems seems to confront you, and as one is settled, the next one, and the next arrives. Have you noticed? I have. There seems to be no end to them. There is no time in which you feel completely free of problems and at peace. And for some reason, and of course we're all subject to this tendency, for some reason, we think that just over the horizon, that solution, that thing getting handled is going to finally put us in a place of well-being and peace. And that's so seductive that the smartest, most perceptive people on the planet have played that game. The world is very seductive in its influence upon us to tell us that certain situations and conditions equate to certain experiences for ourselves, right? I mean, even if, I mean, the commercials are just the worst example, right? You know, use this shampoo and, you know, you'll have a wonderful sex life, you know, and lose this weight and suddenly, you know, all your problems will go away. And, you know, this whole imagery thing, it's all building on the external, the superficial. And, you know, if you live in this house, you know, you're going to have a beautiful wife or something. I mean, they kind of create all these sort of equations, although we do quite well on our own, right?
Yeah.
We don't really need them to do that. But that just comes out of our own idea that we think we know what the problem is. But that's not the problem. And this is kind of the whole story of the prodigal son. I think Jesus was teaching this in his lesson, amongst other things. But when the prodigal son was the exemplar of the individual who thought he knew what would finally make him happy. And he did something which was really strongly in violation of his culture, of the ethics of his time, of his family, which should be to take the father's inheritance before the guy's even dead, half of it, and run off and live off that money. And the story, of course, is that he reaches the end of that story, that his understanding of the problem, and his understanding of what would be the solution to that problem. He plays it out. And he plays it, you know, just like you and I would. I mean, he's extracting all the gusto he can out of the illusion, right? You know, he's doubling down on this illusion. You know? One time, again, until finally there's no more answer to the perceived problem. See, has anyone ever, you don't have to raise your hand, come up to that place where you go, God, I just keep running this one out. I thought it was him, I thought it was her, I thought it was the money, I thought it was the job, I thought it was the education, I thought it was a retirement plan, I thought it was this, I thought it was that, and you get there and you go, oh, that's not it. And see, that's when most people are really ready for the spiritual message, right? I know what it was for me, because I ran out my whole American dream scheme and fell to my knees because I thought, this is it? And that's like the prodigal son that goes, okay, wait a minute. Before I started this journey, I already had the answer. Before I even, he doesn't say this, but I'm making this up because it works. Before I went off with Dad's money, which I thought was the solution, and the problem was that I wasn't happy, I already had the solution. I was well cared for. I was loved. And this, of course, is proven the way when the son turns around and comes back, instead of father going, what did you do with all my money? You know, it was no guilt, no shame, no blame. It was new sandals and a robe, and slay the fatted calf, and let's have a giant barbecue because the son was lost and now is found. See, there's a celebration when we stop running away from the problem and return to the answer. That's that. Because there's no more angst. There's no more illusions that pull us out of peace. And there's only that sense of, yes, I can be here at home, and I can experience that oneness, I can experience that wholeness. And even a glimpse of that, even touching the hem of the garment, as Jesus would say, is enough for us to correct our perception and to keep us from running very far off. We may run off again, but we'll remember that moment when our seeking was not outside of ourselves and how we really did feel that sense of peace. And that then becomes our touchstone. That then becomes that which calls us back. Becomes that which keeps us from going off track, from going too far afield, which is so easy to do. But if we really want the answer, with a big A, capital A answer, the one that does not present one more problem, then that's the journey we take. So let me see the problem so that it can be solved. So that's the word for this week. Lesson 80 says, let me recognize my problems have been solved. So first you have to recognize the problem. And the problem is what? Separation. Only all the time. Just 100% of the time, that's all. If you're willing to recognize your problems, you will recognize that you have no problems. Because if you recognize that all your problems are separation, and that cannot be, God can never be separate from us because we are one with the one. Now talking about essence now, don't be looking at your body. As much as they're lovely to look at. That is bearing witness to our separation, right? So we don't think bodies, we think essence. When Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am. He wasn't talking about his body, was he? So if we recognize the problem is separation, then we recognize that it's already been solved. Because you can't be separate from love, from peace, from wholeness, from joy, from abundance. Can't. Not in truth. So as much as you want to change the screen out here and the image in the world, it'll just be more seeking but not finding, right? More frustration, more broken relationships, more damage. But if you do, you'll be amongst good company. Because we all do. I'm not preaching to you, as you know. I'm remembering with you. These are the truths. And it just helps to know when you're off course. And as I said last week, having Denise in the car is very good. She reminds me you're going the wrong way. Something like this, a study group, prayer partners. Who in your life do you have that can gently remind you when you are not aware of the problem as it really is? That might be something to think about this week. I know some of the groups are going to be meeting this week, and that might be a good topic for conversation. How will you get an ally in your spiritual work? Because without that, you can't get out of yourself sometimes. Have you noticed? But I can share my illusion with almost anybody, and I'll say, that's not the truth. And that's not, if you keep going down that road, I guarantee you'll have less and less and less and less until you're eating slop with the pigs. Now, at any point in time, you don't have to go there. You can turn around and get back to the truth. Okay. So let me recognize my problems have already been solved. Let's just, I'm going to do a little meditation with you. And David, if you join, give us a musical pad, please. And what I'd like to do is actually take situations in life. There's nothing like the real deal to work these practical spiritual teachings. And don't you have to pick up something, you can pick something that's particularly difficult, but pick something that we consider in the minor to moderate category to work with during this time. And we're going to invoke this unified field of love that's so evident in this community and in this place. We're going to know that we are in this field of love, in this united state of consciousness that is rife with spiritual understanding. It runs much deeper than the surface mind. So we know that we are in this field, and in this field that we are susceptible to shift, seeing differently. Because there is a really strong intention in our hearts to do it life differently, to do it in a way in which we truly can realize the truth that sets us free. So we thank you, Spirit, that you are with us always, that you are closer than our very breath in every instance. So we really come now with a focused intention to bring awareness to some incident or some situation in our life which we present to ourselves as a problem, which represents to us a stumbling block to our well-being, something that's keeping us out of peace or seeming to block love's presence. As we bring this to mind now, we do it ever so gently, knowing that we can bring this forward with our absolute intention that we can do something good with it now. That we might see it differently now, that we might come to understand that the only problem that really causes us to suffer, that we experience time and time again, is the belief that we are separate from that presence, that power, and that love, that wholeness, and the peace, and the joy, which is our inheritance as children of God. So we wish to have that mind in us that was in Christ Jesus, that knowing that he came from God did not think it was robbery to believe in this internal reality where the divine resides within you and within me right now as the answer. And so we just open our minds to this possibility of how is this situation in my life rooted in an experience of separation? What do I feel separate from? What do I seems to be apart from me? What's missing? What am I aching for? What's the desire behind this problem? What's the deepest desire behind this problem? Let it gently come to you in this field of unconditional love. This open-minded awareness. Just allow that understanding. It's as the prodigal son came to himself.